So guys, thank you so much for being here at this particular Navigate. One of the key things that we want to do is every single week is bring you insights, bring you perspective that you can take on board to be able to help you navigate through this. What's interesting is if we look at the market conditions right now, they clearly have shifted from where they were. And, potentially there's a lot of reports about a softer landing in the process. But one of the things that we wanted to do today, and sometimes you'll hear directly from me, other times it'll be guests. And today absolutely is one of our favorite guests who I've seen speak at conferences, share insights with our clients and really add enormous value. And that's none other than Chris Mercer. Chris, it's awesome to actually have you here, and it is great that you're able to share some great insights with us. Are you there, Chris?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here. Yep. I got no video.
No visuals.
I don't know what I've logged into. I can't add my video, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Okay, if you just click your video, I think it will be there.
No, I've got only an audio version only at the moment, so maybe I've clicked on the wrong link. I'm not sure what's going on there. I just came off a Zoom meeting. Okay, give me 1 sec.
Do you want to just jump back on? And I've got a couple of things to share with up front. Audience is still building, so we'll go from there.
Okay, well, I'll try to see if I've got a more up-to-date click, but I've got an audio only link here. So 1 second.
An audio only link. So what I can do, let me just see if I can do an upgrade. Can I do an upgrade to you right here?
Yeah, and just send me the email. I'll get the video up.
Yeah. What I might do is I'll just, here's Kirsten. Kirst, would you mind sharing a new link to Chris? Chris has only got audio, so we can't see his fabulous, handsome self.
Yeah.
So
nice.
that would be awesome. Okay, great. Thanks. Chris, there's a new link coming to you directly from here.
Good.
Same here, MS No Video. Yeah, so this is a webinar, guys, and the webinar is more a delivery mechanism. And I think, Chris, you might have got the same link, that very first link in the process, which is an invite. So we'll get that upgraded for you. Guys, what I wanted to share with you in the meantime is just a couple of key points around. We know that Navigate is all about planning and directing your course of action through uncharted waters. There is clearly uncharted waters at the moment, so how do we capitalize on it? And the thing I did want to highlight to you is this, that what you can control is attitude, what you can control is skills, what can you control is knowledge, and what can you control is actions. So this is incredibly important. And if you haven't taken a pic of this, please take a pic of it and share this with your team, because ultimately it would be, okay, is there an attitude adjustment that I need? Is there a skill adjustment that I need? Is there a knowledge adjustment, or is there an adjustment in the actions that I'm going to take? And I guarantee, Chris, you're going to share insights around all of those particular points, particularly from a leadership point of view as to helping you navigate through this. And if we go one step on from here, it is about health and safety. It absolutely is about making sure that we capitalize on effectiveness around costs, around making sure we're applying efficiencies, on building our culture in a great way, and ensuring, guys, that we actually are focused on making a difference to our clients. And ultimately then it's around our community coming together with this. So Chris, what we might do is I'm going to just jump out of this. Chris, what would be really neat is, could you maybe, while we're waiting on this, is just share a little bit about your background and some of the great things you've been doing, working with the accounting profession, with the real estate profession as an accountant over a long period of time.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. I've worked for the real estate sector now since 2001. And in that time, I've reviewed the P&Ls and performance and participated in everything from commission calculation, rejigs for agents and independent contractors, property management acquisitions for over 1,000 agencies. I've presented at almost every major franchise group's, you would call it, annual conferences on how to be more profitable from a business accounting point of view. And Live Real Estate Accounts is a back-end services and strategy company to assist people with financial needs and how to make sure you're not just making more income, but you're making more money. So listen, I've worked with the biggest businesses around, and I know a lot of those members of your group, Michael, as well as the guy that's just started up. And we also look after independent EBUs, the sort of listing agents that get out there and go hard with a little, just sort of their own effective business unit of a couple of support staff and productivity people. Yeah. So we're very comfortable with the whole transaction. And in that time, we've gone through a couple of GFCs now. This is bigger than the last one, and downturn. So we've got the good times and bad times and what the good behaviors are. So that's my background there, Michael.
Yep, brilliant. So Chris, I believe you've been sent a new link. Can you just check to see if you've got that link?
Yes, it's just come through. Thank you.
Awesome. So we'll say goodbye and then hopefully see you shortly.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'll do a couple of things in the meantime. So guys, one of the things that I've been sharing with a lot of my clients is making sure we're applying the 3 C's. So the guys who are actually on here who literally have been part of the RER network and the team would be familiar with this. So hopefully utilizing this. But the interesting thing is, and please write this down and share this with your team, and that is, if confidence is missing, people will tend not to act. Okay, I'll just say that again. If confidence is missing, people tend not to act. So here's the challenge that we've got at the moment. In some situations, people are just not that confident to act. So what they're doing is, it's easier for me not to go ahead and do something than to go ahead. If I'm not confident about buying a new car, I won't. If I'm not confident about wearing this particular outfit out in public, then I won't. So as simple as that is as a methodology and a way of viewing it, if that confidence is missing, people find it difficult to act. So what is the number one thing that you and your team are doing? Firstly, you with your team, is you are the confidence creators in your team to go out there and, if they're in property management, navigate through some rent reviews and rent relief processes. If you're from a sales point of view, you've got to instill the confidence in them as to helping them list property and sell property, because they're the basics of the business from a sales business point of view. So if you start to look at that and say, all right, it's my goal to instill confidence in them, and it's their goal to instill confidence in a buyer, a seller, in a landlord, in a tenant, as to how we're going to navigate through this process. So I talk about the 3 C's. And if you've been to something like a sales boot camp, this comes up within sales boot camp. And that is, we need to instill confidence, clarity, and certainty. So the more we can instill that in a buyer, the more likely they are to buy. The more we can instill that in a seller, the more likely they are to sell. So this is a simple process, but what I'd love you to do with your team is to be able to say, okay, how great a job are we doing in terms of clarifying this and making this happen? And I'm going to promote you to a panelist, Chris, and see what happens from this point of view. So
now I do.
And you have video we can kick in?
Yep.
This could be it. It could have just been a simple thing that I need to do on my end. So just wrapping up that, Chris, while you're gone, I talked about what, if confidence is missing, people tend not to act. Yeah. So it's about ensuring that we instill that and can bring it forward.
You do need to allow me, Michael, you do need to allow me to start my video. It's saying I haven't got your permission, but I now have access. You need to allow my video to work.
I can make you a host. How about we do that? See what happens here.
Okay. Yep, done.
We have achieved it. Hey, Chris, great to have you here. Thanks, guys, for being with us. But it's allowed me to just pop that little piece in around confidence for you. And Chris, just while you were gone, if confidence is missing, people won't act. So it's important that we as leaders instill that in our team, and then secondly, that our team can instill that in a buyer, in a seller, in a landlord, and a tenant, as to helping them navigate through this. And they need to know, look, I'm with you. I'm here. I'm beside you on this particular journey. Not in a bragging sort of chest beating kind of a way, but in a real empathetic, let's actually go through and make this happen. Yeah. So thanks for doing that intro video, Les. What we can now do is get into some of the strategies that you're seeing the leaders doing. And what's neat I think now, Chris, is panic has tended to dissipate from the from certainly Australia and New Zealand, and therefore we're moving to a sort of a different mode, a different energy. I'd love you to talk a little bit about that and what you're seeing.
Yeah. Well, look, since we spoke last week, I put a slide together for that exact conversation. So let me just share that. It will take me 2 seconds. Okay. So what we're looking at is, and you can see that there, I hope.
No, we can't see it. So you just need to share screen. Tech is normally one of my strong points, by the way.
Okay.
Starting screen share. Here we go.
Okay, so what we're talking about is the sort of steps, what I call a road to recovery through this. And look, the event's an exogenous shock, and I just say it's tested everyone because it's an influence that comes from outside your business. You have no control over the shock. It's a causation that you are simply a victim of, and it's profound. So there is the technical term for this event, and it's certainly been a significant one. So we sort of look at the 2 or 3 roadmaps to recovery for COVID. And first of all, you'll go into survival. The second part is now what I'm turning away from just cash flow, but sustainability. We want to improve sustainability. And the third part is then look at strategy, be more strategic, because this is an opportunity to come out of this not thinking the world will just return. There's opportunities and so on to make your business future-proof or future-ready. And it's certainly going to, most likely from my experience, cause bringing forward the acceptance of certain behaviours that might have taken a longer period, because the hard facts are, without any major medical breakthroughs, self-isolation has to be here to stay. We may be able to meet people, but you certainly won't be able to stand within 1.5 meters of them for the foreseeable future. That means digitization and all those other things, but we'll talk about them later. So the next part is, this is what people, Michael, your words, people overreacted. And I'm going to look at it and say, the questions that people went through, will I survive? What is happening here? And I certainly say that a lot of restaurants and pubs and those types of venues are having those hard conversations still. The next part then is, what's the state of my business now? Without any additional work done to your business, you're assessing, what does my business do now without any support? What can I change? What can I manipulate? The next part is my income at risk? So have I sold properties or got property management engagement that may fall over due to this, and your future exchanges may feel vulnerable, or deferred settlements? Well, you're going to start to look at that as your pipeline of future cash flow. Next thing, who can help me? What staff do I need? So there's a question of, do I see the future being less transactional volumes? We all want to be very generous and kind to our teams, but you don't need to over-resource a business that will come back. Or if you see growth in your vision because you just started business 6 months ago, you look at those questions on a case-by-case basis. And then finally, how's my cash flow on deals and managements? And yet again, you're trying to ascertain cash. We'll talk cash more next. The thing that comes from this is, do what you need to do to be satisfied your business is okay to continue. And that's the only action I can say you can recommend to anyone before they start making fancy futuristic decisions. So we want to feel like we've survived.
Yeah, so great, Chris. This is the survival conversation, and I think there's a lot of people have done that sort of like a little bit of that overreaction, but also I think there's a lot who've gone, okay, now we're in a place. JobKeeper is coming in for a lot of the real estate profession, so that's great, and we might have a bit more of a conversation around that, because there's questions all over that one. And what I like about this is who can I help me? I'm not alone in this. Let me actually reach out from a support point of view, so we can help navigate through that particular process. And I think, back to your comment before, there could be some decisions that you have been delaying, or things you've been putting up with in the business that either we can speed up the implementation, we can shift something around, or change the structure of the business in a way that we've got the perfect valid reason to make those decisions faster than we otherwise may have made.
Yeah. Yes. Now so I'm going to get into a philosophical debate very soon about JobKeeper and good business decisions. And that's something which business owners will care about. And look, I know we've got agents on here, so I don't treat agents as non-entities. I talk to agents as people who are running their own business units and have their own sort of business plans. But I am talking to two audiences here at the same time. I'm mindful of that.
Yeah.
So when I'm coming into it, it's this whole idea of establish where you are and secure your fort. You know, you're talking about this as you're out in the Wild West. You know, that's the sort of shock that everyone's gone through, and it is that profound. So first of all, who am I going to speak to give me a clear picture of my business? I think clarity is a good picture for confidence. You know, clarity, and we're there. For a lot of you, you've assessed that. Now we get into the next step, which is sustainability. It's a key thing of getting the most out of what you have for as long as you can. What can we do? Now, it's sort of like the days of we were going to go out and invest. Well, now you're going to prune the hedge. You're going to really start to go, right, what's essential? What's a nice to have? What can wait? So key thing for everyone, you have to look after cash, quarantine cash. Even if you can afford to pay your loans off because you've come in with a wet sail, don't burn your cash reserves. Do everything you can right now to secure all access to free cash flow you can. Defer the loans. Take advantage of any rents and stimulus, what I call stimulus offerings. Look at line of credits if you can extend them. Because most people in our industry are still enjoying some sort of strong settlements flow, and it's not been quite as devastating as what people thought. But the vertical cliff, which we've yet to see, is June. It's a real interesting challenge because most people can access 20%, $10,000 in super. And for the average person, that can get them through a while. But that might get close to running out in June, and they can't access it again till July. And that will take 4 to 6 weeks to get into their pocket. So you're going to have in sales, maybe some people having to sell, buyers being opportunistic. But the other part is more that the tenants will be more hurt and they will be struggling at that stage to be paying their rents, and they may defer and they may ask for that real impact in property management relief. So there will be a potential that you're owed money, but you haven't got the money. So you want to protect cash. You will get it, but you can't force that money to come in because there's only so much you can ask from a person who's got no cash to pay. They've got 6 months up their pocket. The other thing is I don't really focus on JobKeeper. I'm going to talk I'll answer all those questions when we get to the specifics of JobKeeper to everyone. But it's not about stimulus. Stimulus is an inducement. It's an offer from the government to keep you sailing through. Get as much as you can. But what I want to say is you can actually improve your cash flow by growing and doing as much as you can in sales at the moment. Not, as I said last week and said at other conferences calls, two types of principals at the moment. Principals that have decided to go fishing and just wait for the storm to pass and looking forward to coming back to their good old habits. And the other ones are getting themselves future ready, digital, and they're adjusting their tactics. Now, if you want to understand the difference between strategy and tactics, I use the example of a grand final of a rugby match or league, whatever sport you play, AFL. What you've got to remember is that if both teams are equally matched and that you're sitting there going, well, which one will win? And they've both sort of prepared and they want to play fancy, beautiful, open, edge to edge, back to front type sport. You know, the Harlem Globetrotters of sort of visual beauty of playing the sport. But then 2 seconds before the whistle goes, a hurricane, storm, snow and sleet comes through, and then one team tries to play that same game in spite of the change in weather, and the other one just tucks the ball under their arm and keeps it close. Which team wins? It's not that they're a better team than the other, but the team which adjusted its tactics will better succeed in the conditions that they are surviving in. It's not about who could be the best.
Chris, this is my favourite quote from you, without a doubt, and that is, the team that plays the conditions best wins. It is such a strong framework, and for everyone on the line, just to take that on board, the team that plays the conditions best wins. So these are the conditions that are in front of us. Don't wish for another set of conditions. This is the game we're playing, and how do we play the game right now? And I love that tactical shift. I also love that you've actually brought in, take ego out of price. There's been some agencies that are still playing the price protection game, as opposed to, you just got to let that one go and let the market decide. And your seventh point there, real estate is a market. You just got to remember it's a market, which is great.
And in essence, we're trying to remind people that, yes, it's great that you always get 10% above premium prices. I'd say, well, let's just start not believing that press so much, because it's actually going to be a disadvantage to you now as you disappoint people. Now, the people that have been around since the GFC, I've got to give you one example where a very prominent business that I would say prominent because of his experience from a group that I used to work with. He was a lovely guy. And I said to him, how are you going on the Sunshine Coast? He goes, you know what, we've got no one going through an open for inspection, not one. And I went, oh, well, maybe you should, lower the price. He goes, the person who I've listed this property with, I sold it to them 18 months ago for $630. And he goes, I can't get an offer at $480 today. That's 18 months. Now, this is the same person he sold it to for $650. I said, well, $630. I said, well, wouldn't you start promoting the yield going up, that the rental is sort of stayed the same and that this is a yield? He goes, we're only getting $19,000 a year in rent. I went, who paid $630 for this property?
Yeah.
All right. And now this is the extraordinary thing where people who got caught up paid too much. You just want to say, mate, you're going to take a hit. Let's limit the damage. And you put offers in front of people that the market is saying will transact today. Forget the fact the person made a bad bet. Who wants to call it what it is? That's the economics of the capital markets. So hopefully I'm freeing people up from being egg on your face to, this is the risk of business. And there is risk in buying and selling property and political pandemics, as we found out. So there's my last bit on sustainability. Now we're going to talk about some of the factors of sustainability, but what you're trying to do is lower your break even. And you'll notice I haven't mentioned profit. Right now, we're not really interested in profit more than survival and sustainable cash flow. We'll hope the profits lift, but right now we want to keep our infrastructure. You don't want to lose expertise. You don't want to lose good people. You're really just trying to keep the team together so that when the bounce comes, you're ready. And that bounce is...
So Chris, can we just go back to one slide? Can we just go back one slide?
Yeah.
So on that, guys, my big takeaways from this, and one of the things I always look at is, what are the takeaways? Number one, cash is king. So these modes, the next 3 or 4 is about how do you actually make sure you capitalize on that cash. Then point 6 is very much around, well, okay, tactically, the team that plays together, that plays to the conditions best is going to win, taking price out of it, and that real estate's a market. Okay, this is awesome. Brilliant.
Okay. So next, we want to be more strategic. And this is time to make change. It's like, if there's a pause, if there's just a sort of general stalling of momentum, I believe now's the time to make changes and embrace it, be a sort of forward-looking, and what is those tactic adjustments, and then what are the long-term ones? So I say, time to make changes. I liken it, I'll say it now, imagine if you don't make and embrace the change, which is most likely self-isolation is going to make customers much more accepting of not having to have a face-to-face. Or you don't need to do an open for inspection and expect 50 people to come through your tire kickers. Your open for inspection shift to pointy end, engaged, ready to transact type OFI people. You take them through, but you're just not going to open it up to the public. Embrace that. Be innovative in your thinking. You want to innovate and don't doubt yourself. No one's got the right answer. So the clever innovators and the clever people who can justify and embrace the change And the biggest one for me in the last 15 years is I've been hanging, absolutely smashing people. You can make people come to your office if you want, or you can go to their lounge. It's all up to you managing the expectation. So if you don't learn to manage this expectation to your advantage and take advantage of self-isolation to your benefit, you're a moron, is what I would call you, or living in sort of la-la land. The biggest advantage the industry has been given is that property managers no longer need to do a physical routine inspection. Can you imagine how many hours work we have taken off the table, and people are satisfied with the virtual tour inspection? You get the tenant to walk around with a mobile phone and make sure it's live, and that satisfies it. Snap. I want to embrace that every second of the day, because Absolutely. I no longer have to send them in a car. They give every excuse why it took them 4 hours to do one inspection. You wouldn't believe it. I go, that's funny, I would. How good's this? Let's just wipe out 25% of a property manager's day, week, make it 30, and now you can do it at your desk.
It's impressive, isn't it? It's
okay,
impressive.
Now that's the type of change. Don't wish for the routine inspections.
Yeah.
That's key. Embrace the change and don't return. Communicate, managing. Now, this is how does your business remotely operate? Think that through. Are your staff productive if they're not in the office? Well, I'm a professional outsourcer, and I've got other businesses like E52, the back office property management. I've got outsourced and centralized conveyancing, and we've got other things like buy now, pay later credit. These things are done by professional outsourcers, and I know, Michael, you've got your outsourced services, but these things are done by professionals who operate at 150% productivity. Now, if your staff are at home getting paid JobKeeper, but still only doing 5 phone calls a day, that is not productivity. You need to have productive, non-core, remote operating staff. You don't just pay them because it's cost neutral. You need to get the lift in productivity. It is not just about cash neutrality. You need to get productivity high, not 4 hours of work a day does. What do we get, and how do we get the right outcomes? So isolation's here for the long term. Is your business ready? Now, the big part is the market is the market. So if you take this different view, who can grow market share now? It doesn't mean you're writing records. It's that you are the leader of the market in the conditions today. But all that means is that when the market comes back, boom, you're going to get the inquiry, and then you're going to get the listings, and you'll surge ahead. Keep in mind, I can pick up market share by absorbing agents and other. So if I was an EBU, if I was an agent, strategically partnering with an agent that's not listing so well now, they might become a buyer agent. Why wouldn't you look to bring some quality guy who's a good selling agent, maybe not such a good listing agent? You've got that. You're an agent. Grow your business. If you're a business owner, find a business that's got rent, infrastructure, and they're really just a transacting agent. Shut your doors, take a seat in our space. I just grew my market share, not by selling more myself, but by being innovative business-wise, having my peripheral vision open to opportunities while I'm hoping to not have to eat McDonald's in the car park and sleeping in my car. Well, tough times to cover.
So Chris, I think the thing that I'm really liking about this is a lot of leaders have had the hat on to, how do we shore up the ship? So up until this point in time. So this is now okay, let's look forward and not go when everything goes back to normal is the key message here. What is it that we've learned from this? What is it that we can do differently that we can capitalize on? And you're right. There are some great operators who have said, hey, this thing called running a business is not for me. Me folding in, me getting involved in another operation where I can go back and do what I'm great at and take that stress away from me, that's a fantastic opportunity to not only from a short-term point of view, but from a long-term point of view, grow that market share. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So look, that's the sort of that's the sort of, you know, from my position, the three parts I'm looking at it. First of all, survival. Secondly, improve your sustainability. And thirdly, your strategic vision, where you want to take your business, because people are going to look at that differently. And I'm certainly not the only person who's got an opinion on that. And so from my side, it's that looking at your, you know, almost like those checklists of that, and something which we do it live, is assist people working through that part of their businesses. I do think the people that come back just looking forward to being a transactional business, relationships, listing to listing, I don't know that that's always going to have a place in the industry. I feel that the business owners and the agents that are really trying to embrace technology, virtual platform, that will be, you know, dialed up a bit faster than what was going to happen because of this COVID. And that's my simple, you know, I guess you'd call it my own, what do you call it, professional insight. There'll always be a position for the mother and father that just want to deal with the local agent. So I'll pass that back to you, Michael. I know we're going to talk about stimulus and all that sort of stuff, but I'll stop sharing my screen there.
Yeah.
But yes, the stimulus. You take me through it. You've got Q&A, chats. What do we want to talk about next?
Yeah, so guys, if you want to, on the right-hand side in the chat, by the way, our network members are saying, you know, normally I've got video, we go into chat rooms and all that sorts of stuff. This is a webinar, guys, so it's a slightly different platform to what some of our members are used to. So if you've got any questions for Chris as we go through this, by all means, jump in. I've got a couple that Chris, I'd like to get into. You know, a super simple example of this on the sales side is, you know, I look at it, what we can do and can't do from a listing and a selling point of view. We can't run open homes and we can't do auctions in terms of physical auction, either an in-room or an on-site auction without, you know, maybe at level 2, when we go down a notch or two, we might be able to do some social distancing around that. And even New Zealand's got, 2 buyers per day can go through a property at different times. So in terms of private showings. I look at it from the point of view that the agents that are getting really smart with this could, for example, do their vendor meetings based on a Zoom, and maybe they do one pre-auction meeting, assume auctions come back in, but a lot of it can be done, you know, in terms of face-to-face, because the real benefit of face-to-face that I see is you get to see the facial expressions of the client. Yeah. So when you say this is where the offers come in at, and like, you know, what do they say? Do they go, yeah, or they go, you know, and all of those kind of things. So suddenly looking at that, and you know, my coaching's always been have the owners come to the office for the business meeting around doing that. But it's always been one of those things that takes time away from an agent. And like you said before, in the property management space, a virtual inspection is now doable, which takes a chunk of time out of that particular process. Yeah.
Look, I think you're going to start to look, I'm talking to some people about auctions and so on recently, and sort of your pulse is gone. You don't have that sort of, I've got this many auctions to run, but that's a little bit harder to sell and so on. So let's get back to basics. You'd imagine the seriousness of a vendor about whether they're willing to actually take a meeting on Zoom. The actual acceptance of that meeting, which is non-essential. Yeah, we'll take out half an hour of our evening at 7:30 at night to sit with you and talk. Does that represent a more motivated person? And ultimately, the ultimate motivation is signing a listing, signing an agency agreement. The other one is vendor paid. How much money they're prepared to tip in. So if you're taking that view, shift a little bit of your previous, how hot, cold, medium are these types of vendors. I think you're going to start to look at what you've got to adapt, what those types of lists, those conditions, or those types of verbal and non-verbal cues are based on new behaviors, Michael, which will mean you have to take a modern view on what that represents. I wonder, I'm at Shane Smolin, obviously an old client of mine for years, used to have kitchen table index. How many kitchen tables did you sit at? Well, I'd argue maybe you've got a new index, which is not kitchen tables, it's videos and kitchen tables. or wherever in the house they take them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Chris, I need to ask you, you've clearly been practicing social distancing with a hairdresser, is that correct?
Correct. My hair is not designed for TV.
I don't have the problem. I did some clippering at home
Yeah.
sort of last week and got through it.
I'm trying to get my hair right, but this thing's not on mirror, so it's all back to front. So I'm getting it in my eyes. I'm not a TV person.
You're all good. You're doing great. Hey, so JobKeeper. Now, you know, one of the things that has come through from a couple of people in the questioning kind of mode, is it possible to manage the revenue in the process to ensure that JobKeeper comes in? And this could be a question we might just need to actually. Why don't I just pause this? Let me just pause. No, we can't do the pause of recording. But you know, like, is that how tight is it on the 30%?
I'll answer that as a chartered accountant. So I can't say anything which is what I would call not professionally in my competency. That's the first thing. You've got accountants. Okay, listen. This is a fluid situation. You've got the right to be as aggressive as you legally can be to operate within the framework that the ATO has delivered through the government stimulus. Some people are better prepared for that than others. So the answer is, of course you can. I'm not going to give any advice about that. But yes, I would be very, very engaged about how to best approach that. Now, I'm going to talk openly about property management, and this is general advice, but I would say if you're looking to look at a property management business and you're looking at the June period, that I suggest that the year-end statement that you'll look forward to collecting on your 600 managements or so on is probably not the best month to do it in June. You probably want to do that in July if you want to line up this year, last year. I suggest your deferments and your rental arrears will spike. And if you had an early close for the year due to staff limitations, that might shave a few dollars here and there. And that is completely and utterly acceptable. And it's done at December. So if anyone's looking for those types of decisions, don't get greedy. You will end up being caught. But do it. Make sure it's aligned and you've got your narrative correct with your tax expert and the story stacks up with your actions. Done. The problem you've got is when you go to do it retrospectively, you have no ground to stand on. So do not make retrospective adjustments. You'll simply be caught. And that is as simple as I get with that.
Yeah, fantastic. So with JobKeeper, one of the challenges that I think some of our clients have had, and maybe some of the people who are tuned in, is that we've had a situation where in some cases businesses had a record March, like an incredibly strong March. So then we've got settlements coming through in terms of April, May. Have you got any more clarity from a JobKeeper point of view?
Yeah.
Because if we wait until the settlements clear, we've waited too long for the cash, because we can see what we're actually dealing with in a month or two with real estate very clearly. Okay. If I'm selling these pens, I either sell it today or I don't sell it today. Yeah.
This is what I'm going to say. The ATO have clarified to the chartered accountants, that's us. So I am aware of the nature. They're simply saying that they want JobKeeper to keep everyone employed. That's the whole spirit of the deal. The initial set of basic tests, and so you notice this week, Michael, I don't have the pieces of paper because the rules have changed 3 times this week. But in essence, you should all apply and register for JobKeeper. The difference is you don't need to apply for receiving the payment. And you can apply for receiving the payment when you know that you will qualify and what rule you will qualify under. That's the separate. So here's the tactic. Everyone register, but don't ask for your money if you don't know that you qualify. Now, for some of you in real estate who are saying, I'm having a good quarter, but I want JobKeeper, well, it sounds like you should have some money to pay the minimum top-ups to your staff, because all staff must be paid $3,000 for the first 2 fortnights and a $1,500 a fortnight from there on. That is why people wanted to get in before the end of April, so they get their money back on the 8th of May, should they qualify. The criteria for qualifying is at basic test 1, 2, or 3, and now there's a whole series of alternate tests that the government's bringing out, because we've just heard not many people are applying for JobKeeper at the moment. Now, I can't tell you why you qualify, but I'm telling you, you apply for JobKeeper. You get all your staff to say yes, they will or won't be taking up your offer, because some people don't want it because they've got other benefits from the government. Others will say they've done it through someone else, particularly your casual staff. But you don't tell them that you're definitely going to qualify. You say, we'll let you know when we do. Now, if they backdate it to the 31st of March, you can register for that up to the end of May. You will get your money in June, but you still need to pay the wage. I hope everyone understands what I'm saying, is that you've got some time to see what qualifications you do have, and the government is updating those through the ATO every day. I got a new qualification, alternate test sent through this morning. I haven't even read it, so I can't quite even tell you what that one's about. Does that give you some insights, Michael?
Yeah, look, I think it's great, and Jeff just sent a little thumbs up on that one. So Jeff, much appreciate the question. I think it's fair to say it is called JobKeeper. And I love the way you described it. It's the government's attempt to keep people in jobs and not head them over to job seeker, where all of a sudden there's a lot more pressure going on to that particular mode. I think one of the things. Yeah, it's a spirit of that, and so it's definitely speak with your accountant, or absolutely, Chris, connect with you and get some advice offline that's about your particular situation around that.
Sure.
Because the other thing that I think is super valid is this future fit business, or this future mode. We had a question come through from Paul as to what does it actually look like? What do you see that being? And you and I don't have a crystal ball. My take on that is one, you want to have a look at who's the team that you've got with you coming out of this, and making sure if there was a skill set upgrade that they need to put in place, do that right now. And so I'm not sure if you want Chris to answer it, Paul, but I'm giving a shot firstly, Chris, and then you can top it up if that's okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I do is to say, okay, what's our listing win rate at the moment? Our listing win rate has been, sitting around the 50-60%, and we've been okay with that because there's been enough volume for us to still do okay. Now what we might need is a win rate of 75 or 80%, given there's less volume coming into the marketplace, to secure that. What's the change in our dialogue? What's the change in the way that we're presenting ourselves at a listing appointment? By the way, for me, guys, the 3 biggies that you need to do is you've got to deal with health and safety. You've got to deal with, how you're going to keep them healthy and safe. You've got to actually demonstrate a strategy that is going to work in this market. And you've got to be able to show them that you've got the negotiation capability to get a deal done in this market. And the best way to do that, by the way, is a case study of here's what we are actually doing in that mode. Then on the property management side of it is definitely, assuming everyone's gone to a cloud base. If you haven't, you're sort of behind the game plan, because it's much, much harder to work remotely based on it. But I do think, Chris, one of the key things is I've had conversations with with leaders who've said, we can't grow our business because we don't have any more space in the office. And now they're saying, hang on a tick, look at all the space. I could play cricket in the office right now. Yeah. So maybe I didn't need as much space as I thought to be able to grow the business through some sharing and effective ways of managing that through.
Yeah. So I'm, as I mentioned before, but I'm part of, businesses that are looking at platform services. And I sort of go, the customer journey is sort of, where do we onboard them and where do we take them through? So I want you to map your recommended customer journey. And if you went through all the different software packages you've got in place, well, what are they? And then ask yourself, well, when do I actually use them? And get rid of the stuff you don't. Just take it out of your experience. I mean, why do you have that? Why do you have that? So go back to your sales, onboarding, right through to settling. What's that experience for your standard best practice operation? The next one is property management, same journey, and some of that would be synergistic off the back of sales. But I would say this to everyone. I see the future being front of office, back of office. And Michael, I always use the same analogies because they don't change and I think they work. So if anyone's heard this before, fair enough, but I've said it 1,000 times. How many of you go to pay the bookkeeper when you finish at a restaurant historically? You go, oh, I need to pay my bill. Can I find the bookkeeper? You don't. You deal with the front of house team. The other thing is, to say what sort of shifts go on, Michael, how many people here still collect rent from tenants by cash? Probably none. Desperate. This is that sort of shift where we go, let's use electronic collections. Let's get people on another step with direct debit. I want to see you navigate people up to the more digitized from the more manual to make your efficiency and collections and manual sort of calculations and data entry drop. So it's much more integrated. You take it from an appraisal, it goes into a listing, settlement, and it's just aged. Same with PM. Now, the front of office staff need to be in there, and that's important because at the end of the day, the front of house staff need to be locally available. But the centralized back-end services, I'm all over that. That's what I do. We could be, I've got clients all over the country. I don't need to do your payroll in your office. I can do that anywhere in the world. So get the shift. Next is customer engagement. Do you need to physically meet? And at what point do you need to meet with that? This is shifting your limit, your thinking, your own bias, if you want to look at it. And other people look at it as an opportunity. I would see people that are climbing up the ladder really embracing change because the established market share people are too comfortable potentially. But good operators do embrace innovation. So the best operators aren't sitting on their hands. I've dealt with some of the best agents in the country, and those people are not complacent. So if you want another C, Michael, the enemy of the C's is complacency.
Absolutely.
Good operators are not complacent. They're in a hurry, they're curious. So for mine, that's the stuff. But then you've got the issue for some people is you've not got the skills. You need to recruit the skills to modernize your business. Otherwise, you're a caterpillar that will never become a butterfly.
So, Chris, one of the things that you're saying in there that I think is super valuable is effectively do what you're great at and make that frontline experience unbelievable and brilliant. And is there someone better skilled than me or better able to deliver a level of services to my business? And, you know, the first point is there a piece of technology that can streamline this? If the answer is yes, well, why don't we have that technology? And by the way, we've tended in a lot of real estate businesses is let me throw some more people at this as opposed to let me throw a better process at this. And unfortunately, what's happened in that mode is we haven't had anywhere near the flow or the capability come through. So that's an important one. The second important with this is when you start to look at the outsourcing side of it is the efficiencies you can gain in the business are massive from that point of view. And by the way, you're not actually hogging up front office kind of office space for back office functionality.
Correct. That's the shift. I don't know how many people here think they need 180 square meters. I say you probably need 192 because shift out the back end team. It doesn't need to be there. Now, the thing for you is, well, I'd like to have them there. That like to have involves they start knowing about the baptisms and the school, the births. There's an inefficiency built in by the community in your office. Not to say it's not important, because I think a lot of people actually enjoy getting back to the office to see other people. But from a professional basis, what do you have to have in your business? Well, what's your point of difference? It is simply the people at your front office and your customer experience of taking them through your transaction. they don't care about how you pay your payroll. That is not part of any third party's experience, aside from your suppliers who might be interested in how they get paid. I want you to shift from what you need to provide and your point of difference, as well as what the part behind it is. That can be much more commoditized. And I want to talk about innovation and the difficulty for innovating. And this is where I want people to make time for it. I feel too many people, it's a bit like recruitment. Oh, it's not a good time to recruit because everyone's busy. No, it's not a good time to recruit because no one's making money. I go, so well, let's just agree, it's never a good time to recruit. It's never a good time to list. It's never a good time to sell. Well, the opposite is, it's always a good time. It's always a good time. My biggest issue is there's an innovation lag or inertia for full-time staff who are worried about innovating because it's going to cost them their job. Now, this is the hard facts of life. I liken it to 3 people holding buckets of water, putting a fire out. And they're going, we're too busy. They're putting a fire out. They go, put the buckets down, put the pipe into the wall and a hose at the end and turn the tap on. But we're too busy. This is the chance to put the buckets down and innovate and take advantage of a more efficient means and less arms and legs. That's where I'm sitting.
And Chris, there's 2 points, really important points there. There's innovation from internal. So guys, how can we do this better? But you know, if I'm only seeing it from one particular point of view, then I won't see that I could bring the hose in because I've always done it this particular way.
Right. That's 100%
a great book
right.
available in the US, and it's called "If It Ain't Broke, Break It." And you know what we've had, I think, in a lot of ways, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So what's a better way of doing this? And I think this is where that you know, people like yourself and myself can come in and go, let's look at this from a different point of view. What if? Now, there could be some people in your team. So I'm not wiping your team out of an innovation conversation, but there could be some people that you can get into an innovation conversation and say, what have we learned in the last 30 days that we can take forward in the business? What have we learned? What have we stress tested here? What has worked? What hasn't worked? What would we do differently from here? And then maybe utilize these kind of sessions in terms of navigators saying, here's another idea. Here's a different way of doing it. And I think we need to, you know, apply that fail fast mode. Bring something in, let's test it in a small way. Did it work? Yes, it did in our marketplace. Great, let's roll it out. Let's test this. It doesn't work. Let's actually put it aside and move things forward at a rapid rate. And the more we do that, the better. So,
how about we talk, just addressing something more to the agent level. It's how many of you are really working hard on your database right now and getting it future ready? Have you got the right email address? Have you got the mobile phone number? Have you got a photograph or some relevant thing? Do you know what properties they own or owned? Can you maintain this and then add the technology and innovation opportunities coming and be ready to be an embracer of virtually communicating in a savvy and sophisticated way? Have you got your Facebook following? Have you got your Instagram aspects right? Now, if you're just waiting for the phone to start to ring in 3 months, these are the aspects that agents can get. Am I future ready? Am I ready for the future? I've got a sort of think tank called the Future Profit of Real Estate. Well, we want the future transaction. And you might do less and earn more, and you can handle more sales. Who knows how digitization of the settlement process in the future will be? Much more digital. Hey, done. Snap. Settlement, money's banked. It's done by some clearinghouse. It's commoditization. If you want to understand, 30 years ago, brokers and stockbrokers made percentage on volume transacted. Today, it's $25 a deal. Ask yourself. That was a whole sector. I did $1 million in sales, so I got 2.5%. Today, it's $25 or so for a transaction. That's what platforms can do. So for me, don't see that coming quickly. I'm not trying to scare people, but I am saying, are you using this time well, or are you waiting for the past to restore? And I think this is where people that want to balance that, fine. You don't need to be an early adopter, but you certainly want to embrace good shifts in technology and expectations of customers.
Chris, it's such a valuable point that to have a performance based on, well, okay, let's get our information firstly, and this concept of clean data. And a lot of time we've heard about clean business, but clean data means you can accurately send, communicate, know who that person is, and be able to have a total profile of where they're at and how we're moving forward. And the only way to do that is by having quality connections and starting to find out where the knowledge holes are and building that forward. Hey, it's been absolutely awesome sharing that with you guys. What I'd love to see in the chat is what's been the most valuable thing that we've covered off on. Chris, I love your passion and enthusiasm, by the way. And
that's okay.
You're the most enthusiastic accountant out there on the planet.
Right.
And it's awesome that I think the real estate profession, from an Australian New Zealand point of view, have got access to you, who you are, what you're about, one, your experience, but also your passion to be able to help people navigate through this has been absolutely brilliant. So guys, let's wrap. I've loved the session. Thank you so much, Chris. And by the way, if guys want to connect with you, the best way is?
Yeah, well, look, our company's Live Real Estate Accounts. I'll send out the slide. I'll send out that PowerPoint, Michael. So I'll make that PowerPoint slide. We'll whip that out. That's got our contact details, either myself or Aaron David. And listen, we've got a team. We'll help you anywhere you are, Australia, New Zealand, and love to get in there and help you get really, built for the future, which is what we see coming quickly. Yeah. And we are open for business for anyone who's feeling like sleepless nights. You've got someone to call and talk it through. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And I love the fact that we've got strategy and mindset coming together so beautifully to achieve the best possible outcome and be future fit. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. If you have someone you can connect in with and literally brainstorm on this, it's an awesome thing to do. So, whether you've got a colleague with you or someone that to say, hey, let me just run through. This is the thinking that I've had based on this. Does this sound? Okay, let me set some priorities. Chris, I'm big on a 30-day plan. So what's going to happen in the next 30 days to move this forward? Let's not worry about the plan for the year. Let's get this done in the next 30 days. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time and energy.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys, thanks so much for all of your commitment and energy you're putting in place. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Andrew. Great to actually have you guys on board. Bye for now.